So we are back once again. We have a special guest today, Laurel Kelly, and she's gonna walk us through what her journey was like. I have my fabulous co-host here, Alex. We're just excited to do one final Friday episode for the holidays. So without further ado, I will let Alex. I'll let you introduce our special guest, and yeah, I'll be in the background.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Welcome back, everybody. My name is Alex Martinez from Creating Coding Careers, where we help aspiring developers transition into ServiceNow and software engineering roles. I have the pleasure of meeting our next guest at our most recent Fireside Chat in Escondido. By the way, shout out to everybody who was able to make it, including those pre-apprentices, Comey and Angela. Great to see you guys there. Our next guest is a Creating Coding Careers alumnus. She is now a senior development consultant at Pathways Consulting Group, a ServiceNow elite partner. Please welcome Laurel Kelly. Welcome, Laurel.
Hey, thanks so much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, so I got to meet you on Friday, and I was so intrigued because you started off your story telling me your educational background. Can you tell us a little about that? I think you were a musical talent at first. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Yeah. My educational background is indeed in music, all the way through, starting with undergrad. I actually did my undergrad right here in San Diego at San Diego State University. Majored in music performance, vocal performance. And then I went on to graduate school on the East Coast and also majored in classical vocal performance there. So I was, in opera performance, doing song recitals, things like that. My path to becoming a developer has been definitely not a linear one. It's been windy along the road, and I've had a chance to pursue different career paths along the way, and I've wound up as a developer now. Really through an interesting twist of fate during COVID. So I can talk a little bit more about that if you're interested in kind of how I wound up in the apprenticeship.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I don't know if this was before or after the COVID. I was peeking through your LinkedIn profile, and I saw that you started working for this company called the League of Amazing Programmers, and it's a great program. My understanding that it helps train underrepresented youth how to become developers, and we're talking about people in the grades of between 6 and 12, I think junior to high school years, and that's based in San Diego. And I'm just guessing, is that where you really got the coding bug when you started working for this company? Or maybe you can fill us in.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, you kind of nailed it on the head right there. I mean, I didn't know anything about programming when I started working for the League of Amazing Programmers. My background at that time, I transitioned, I'd come back to San Diego after being a music performer for a number of years and pursuing that path, came back home and, switched tracks and studied nonprofit management. And then I was working in the nonprofit space, and I got an opportunity to be in partnership development in like fundraising in that sort of development sense for the League of Amazing Programmers. And I was interacting with the kids, I was getting sponsors on board, building community partnerships and things like that. And that's when I started learning about what the kids were doing. That the programming that they were learning was Java development. So this program was teaching them, eventually leading them toward a Java Oracle certification. Like a huge deal for kids, especially from underrepresented communities, to be getting Oracle certified, becoming developers and being able to start consulting at a very young age. We had some kids coming out of that program that were 16 years old, 17 years old, and they're already getting independent contracts. And it was pretty awesome. So it was, during that time when I was a development manager in the nonprofit fundraising sense for that organization, that I was seeing what the kids were putting together, seeing the projects that they were coming up with and the different opportunities that they got exposed to, and helping expose them to those opportunities through the work that I was doing. That I just thought, I started drinking the Kool-Aid. I was like, this is a really great career path. And I started to become interested. I was like, in my spare time, I think I'm going to start dabbling in, a little bit of coding. And then when COVID hit, I was just at the year mark in that position. And unfortunately, nonprofits got hit hard during COVID. And a lot of us got, temporarily laid off. That was my situation. Or we got, reduced hours, something like that. And is like the day after I got laid off temporarily, which I didn't know how long I was going to be laid off. So the day after, I remember calling to sign up for the coding bootcamp through San Diego Code School. And I spoke with a woman named Margaret, and she explained to me, hey, you know, we don't have the paid model anymore. We're actually transitioning to an apprenticeship model. And she described a little bit about that, and the application process hadn't opened yet. And she said, hey, if you're interested in this, here are some steps that you can take to kind of prepare yourself for that application process. And I took that and ran with it, and you know, followed her advice and built some things on my own, created a portfolio, and then started the application process for the apprenticeship. And you know, I feel really lucky, just like super fortunate to have gotten into the apprenticeship, and like all the opportunities that it opened up for me. It was really incredible.
Can you walk us through maybe some of the experiences you had while at Creating Coding Careers? Because you know, it's a lot of information thrown at you all at once, so it's like drinking from a fire hose. How did you feel going from like module to module to module? I'm sure it was challenging. I'm just curious, did you feel any like imposter syndrome during Coding Careers?
Oh yeah, I think imposter syndrome is a very real thing, especially for folks transitioning into tech. You know, from a field that you might not think it's a related field. And I think I would guess that most people experience it. I certainly did. I think it's just, you know, what you do, how you handle it once you're feeling those feelings, like how quickly you can snap out of it is really the key thing there. Because, you know, you can find yourself like kind of feeling like a deer in the headlights. Whoa, this is so much information coming in my direction. You know, I don't have any experience in this. What am I doing, you know, here? Because it's you banging your head up against a wall, trying to fix a problem, you know, but then I think the sooner you realize when to start asking questions, like how long should you be pursuing a problem? And you know, if you feel like you're on the scent of something and you're figuring it out, then, you know, by all means, keep going. But if you feel like you're spinning your wheels and you're just, you know, kind of your eyes are starting to bleed looking at the screen, you know, maybe it's time to take a deep breath, take a walk, and get some fresh air, come back, and then, you know, maybe reach out. And that, I think that was like one of the biggest things when I experienced imposter syndrome was figuring out when to start asking questions, when to start reaching out, and really leveraging the team that you have at your disposal. Because, man, I mean, in the apprenticeship, we were such a tight team. It was awesome. I was in the first cohort, and everybody was just figuring things out. You know, most of the people in the apprenticeship that I went through with had already done the, you know, the coding boot camp prior to getting into the apprenticeship. I had not, and so I was like constantly reaching out to folks like, "Hey, this is brand new to me," you know, and people were super helpful. You start to realize when you're in the program that you are very much supported, not only by your peers, but by the staff and folks who are there to not give you the answers necessarily straight out, but lead you in the right direction. And so, you know, having an open mindset to be able to listen, take feedback, and take that and run with it, you know, go and do your own research and, you know, solution things out.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. So we call them blockers. When you're chewing on something for more than an hour, 2 hours, and like you said, you've caught the scent of something, but you've done what you just said. You go out, take a walk, you've look at documentation, and you still haven't figured it out. Maybe it's probably time to get a second set of eyes on your code or ask for a little bit of help. Nothing wrong with that. So we call those blockers, and we usually recommend if you're working on something for 1 to 2 hours and you're still not figuring it out, probably time to reach out to somebody. So I'm glad you brought that up. So I'm going to fast forward through okay, so now you got this beautiful portfolio. You probably worked on your resume. You're all ready to go to be embedded in one of these companies that we work with. How is that first entrance into ServiceNow company that you worked with? What was that like including the onboarding process? And what were your thoughts on ServiceNow when you first started working with it? If you could fill us in on that.
Yeah. So I really started my ServiceNow training at CCC because I did the ServiceNow speed run. I don't know if that's what it's called still, but you know, I went through the ServiceNow fundamentals, and then I ended up getting embedded with a company, and And so I'll kind of fast forward to, I got some amazing experience through that. I got like a lot of training. So when I guess I'll answer your question in terms of what was it like when I first got exposed to ServiceNow. I was like, well, what is this thing? You know, I haven't even heard of ServiceNow.
Yeah.
And it was, it took a while to kind of figure out, okay, what is this all about? You know, this platform, and it, you know, it kind of helped to compare it to other things that are out there that people have heard more about, like Salesforce and other platforms that help businesses, you know, accomplish work essentially in the cloud. And when I first started going through the training, I mean, I thought it was well put together. The ServiceNow fundamentals, it's a ton of information. So it's, you know, it's about parsing through, it's just, you know, similar to going through the apprenticeship, you know, that ServiceNow is throwing all this information your way, and it's learning how to hold on to the important nuggets, you know, and then also learning how to, you have to realize that you don't have to absorb everything all at once. You know, it's going to come back around. You're going to be iterating through, just like you iterate through your loops, you know, you're iterating through all this information, and it's going to be repeated. The important things are going to be highlighted. You're going to be able to review as you go along. And yes, you dive into like other parts of the platform and get, you know, past the fundamentals and start working in the more like hands-on, interesting parts of the platform, I guess. So then I got embedded with a company, and now that I'm with Pathways, when I started with Pathways, the onboarding process there was amazing. You know, I could tell like right from the beginning when I interviewed with them, even before I got brought on, I was like, this is the company for me, you know, because they were just very easy to talk to. The interview process was so inviting, so like welcoming and kind of acknowledging of my background, and they seemed very interested in me personally, and I had a really good feeling about coming on to the team. They did describe, you know, this is our onboarding process. You know, we have these processes in place, and so they have this system where when you come on board, you get connected with a new hire buddy, who you can, you know, bounce questions off of at any time. They're really like your first line, your first resource when it comes to, you know, somebody you can go to if you have questions, and they help you understand how things work, like how to log your time, you know, sort of those more administrative tasks. They walk you through some of those things, but you also get to meet when you're in that like first initial 30-day onboarding period. You know, you get to meet with like the head people from HR and from administration and from various parts of the organization, to understand, you know, what their day-to-day is like and how you can submit requests to if you have any issues that you might be experiencing. So that was really helpful. And we got to shadow our new hire buddy. So that was it was a really important aspect of it, because, you know, getting in there and not, you don't turn your camera on, you're just like a fly on the wall. You come into client meetings and you get to experience what the day-to-day is like, as your new hire buddy is going through these different client meetings, and then meeting with internally, discussing the project, you know, figuring out the requirements, figuring out the pain points of the client, coming back, you know, huddling, okay, how are we going to solve these issues? You know, or if you're doing like a new implementation, you get to experience that. I've actually had mine. Now I'm a resource for new hire folks. And when I got connected with the new hire buddy who has been shadowing me, you know, she got to come in on some of these projects, and we started implementing a new module for ServiceNow. It's customer service management and knowledge management, so that they can, you know, communicate internally all of their different resources to their team. And so she got to see what it was like to dive into a project, you know, with a customer who's net new to ServiceNow, and go through that implementation, and got to see, you know, how the project comes together, how the work is divvied up, and you know, how we do our day-to-day there. So it's been pretty interesting. And I think the biggest thing for me has just been knowing that throughout the onboarding process, everyone is there. Everyone there at the company is there to, you know, really collaborate and support one another, and you get a strong sense of that at Pathways. So it's been really awesome just knowing at any point I can reach out and ask a question to the entire dev team if I need to, if I really need to get multiple sets of eyes on a problem, that's something that's a little bit more complicated, or just reach out to folks individually. And I always hear back.
Yep. My buddy Efren's over there at Pathways with you. And, I was kind of like picking his brain as he was over there. And one word or maybe two words that I can describe Pathways, the onboarding is thorough and excellent. So it was like, a week went by and it's like, what you doing, Efren? I'm training. And then a month went by. What are you doing? We're training. So it's like a lot of thorough training above and beyond what we give you at CCC. Pathways Consulting gives you a ton of training, and it's a great company from what I've heard. What does it look like a typical day for you right now over there at Pathways? What are you? I doubt you're coding, 8 hours a day, typing at the keyboard. Can you walk us through maybe a typical day for you?
Yeah, sure. You brought up a good point, which is the training, which is part of my day as well when I have time for it. And that's definitely a big part of the onboarding process too. But the day-to-day for me now is, it's broken down into client meetings. I typically have, like right now, my schedule is such that I have most of my client meetings on like Tuesday, Thursday, and I have a lot of open time for development, which I really appreciate. I'm not stuck in a ton of meetings all day, but it's also like my dev time is broken up by those client meetings. I'm on a couple of projects, one of which is production support for a large financial institution. And so, we're in there as issues come up, they put in their tickets and, we're resolving issues like in real time. And that can be really challenging and really exciting all at the same time. It's and that's really where that teamwork comes in. Like, oh, hey, did you build this thing? Reaching out to folks like, figuring out, getting to the bottom of the issues, because it's pretty complex. They are using a lot of ServiceNow products that integrate with one another, and some of them have a lot of customizations to them. So the other project that I was working on simultaneously, but just recently wrapped up, is the project that I mentioned where we were implementing from the ground up ServiceNow for a client. And they had purchased customer service management, one of ServiceNow's, main applications. And this is a government agency, a state agency that we were working for. And now I'm on like the post-implementation support team for that. So, there've been client meetings for that that involved going through the final, I was brought, since I'm a developer, I'm brought in kind of at the final stages of the requirements gathering for that. On that project, I am the developer. There's also a principal developer for a previous project that I worked on. When I first started at Pathways, I was like the only developer on the project. And so, coming in, like new at the company, and hey, you get this project, you get to build a custom application. You're the only developer on the project. I certainly didn't feel like I was like on an island, because I was working with amazing people that I could ask questions who had been there, through the requirements gathering phase for that project. But it was still, like, all right, here we go, like getting thrown into the fire. And it ended up being a success and a lot of fun, to work on that. But the day-to-day involves, client meetings also on the culture team for Pathways. So this is like a rotating thing where people get voted onto the culture team. There's a group of us, and we get to plan, fun events, happy hour type stuff, things that bring us together, and get to like be in communication with the team in ways to improve our culture. And, just get people, because it's tough with everybody working remotely. It's hard to build that culture and like keep people engaged. And I think sometimes people start to feel like they are on an island, they're isolated. And we try to bring people back like into the, hey, we're all in this together, and, how can we support you? So that's been really fun too. And kind of a break in development activities for the day. I do spend a lot of time on my stories. So I get assigned what we refer to it as either stories or cases. That there can be multiple stories, that make up a case, but in any, we communicate with the clients through the cases. And so, the work is broken down. I get assigned stories, and then I'm working on those throughout the day. I also have I've been going for multiple certifications, so
Nice.
doing a lot of training. And so anytime I have extra time where I may have a lull between project work, which hasn't happened very much lately, but when it does, when it gets a little bit slower, that's when I really dive into the certification training for the certifications. And I've been fortunate enough to, get several of those along the way here, kind of branching off the training that I got through CCC. And then with that first partner that I was with, I got a ton of training through them, cashed in on the vouchers, went for the certifications, and then have continued doing that as I transitioned to Pathways.
I'm curious, you're saying you're accumulating certifications. Is there a specific path maybe you're looking towards? I hear a lot of people saying, hey, HR is really hot right now. Or some people have said, SecOps, that's the place to be right now. Is there any particular pathway you would suggest or that you feel yourself going?
Yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned HR and SecOps, because those are two things that I am really interested in.
Nice.
And a particular HR, I've actually been doing a lot of work in HR, but I haven't followed the certification for that yet because I was focused on other certifications. So yeah, my interest in the platform, I got put on like an ITBM, IT business management track through the previous partner that I was connected with. And so, I got exposed to application portfolio management, project portfolio management, these applications that are designed, by ServiceNow to help companies manage their applications and manage their projects and have everything in one centralized platform with a centralized database, so that they can perform their work with ease. And so I got certified in that, so that those certifications that I mentioned are taking me on the path toward becoming like IT business management is the overall suite certified, which is really interesting for me. There's another path that is related to that, which involves Discovery, an application called Discovery, which crawls through a large organization's network and identifies configuration items. So identifies, hardware and software, running it for the organization, and brings in all the data and brings it into a centralized database, identifies it, and basically helps categorize all this stuff and so that the organization knows what it has for its employees and what it's capable, what basically helps cost optimize and things like that. So that's the IT asset management. So I've been going for, I recently got certified in hardware asset management. Nice. And now I'm going to be going for software asset management. I know this is a lot of jargon, but it's a pretty interesting path, bringing in the business side of things and also understanding how all of this data and how all of these, tangible and intangible assets of an organization are managed and leveraged, for companies to do their work. But let's see, another path that you mentioned is SecOps, and I find that really interesting too. I think that's really hot right now in the ServiceNow space, and I think that I would like to go for some training and look towards some certifications in that in the future. But right now, I've been really focusing on understanding the needs of the company that I work for, Pathways, because they have certain projects coming down the pipeline. They've got a lot of HR stuff going on. They've got apparently a big draw for or a big need for IT asset management. And so that's why I have been going for those particular certifications, because I know that there are going to be projects that I can be put on because I have this certification. It's kind of hard to be, it's a little bit of a catch-22. It's hard to be put on a project if you don't have the certification, but yet you do need you do need to get hands-on experience. And that's where that shadowing comes in. When you first come on board, it's shadow as many, different things as you can to try to understand what the different applications are that we work in. Because, you could be put on a project like that and you need to know, okay, where can I go to find the information that I need to do the trainings that I might need to do to get up to speed here.
You mentioned briefly that they invest in you. In other words, they actually let you develop on their time. And I'm just curious, do they, when these courses come up, like these certifications, I'm assuming you have maybe even a purse that's, that you're allowed to tap from in order to get these certifications? Is that how it kind of works with these ServiceNow companies?
Yeah, so with the ServiceNow partners, they have like training credits that they get allocated based on. I'm not exactly sure what is the driver there, like how they get the I think it's their status and their what sort of partnership they're in with ServiceNow. They get a certain number of training credits and probably the size of the organization and how many contracts they have and such like that. But so Pathways has a bucket, if you will, of available training credits that they can dole out to us, and that's what they use to, if they run out of the credits, then they pay straight out of the pocket for us to get the training. We never pay for the training. We never pay for to get our own certifications, and those things are pretty costly. But the partners get them at a discount. So I believe that it's like half off for partners to pay for our exams, for example. When I should say that when there's an influx of a lot of project, client work, that's the priority for sure, is to, work on the project work and bring home the bacon. But, when times are slow, which that's kind of just the nature of things working in consulting, there are times when you're really busy and there are times when it's slower. And when it's slow, that's the time to really capitalize on the trainings and go for those certifications. And a lot of folks at Pathways and a lot of the new folks, that I came on board with and who came on board after me have really been going for those certifications. And that's awesome to see, because it's a win-win. It brings up your own value, and those certifications stay with you no matter where you are. They go with you wherever you may go in the future. But then they're also, while you're at Pathways, they add so much value to the company that they can tell their clients, okay, we have these folks certified over here in HR, we have these folks over here certified in customer service management or SecOps or whatever that happens to be. And then ServiceNow actually has a ton of free training available that doesn't cost, they're not asking for any credits or money or of any kind. I mean, it's free. So you can hop on there, and those are the trainings that they really encourage us to get when they're available, because they may not remain available. They might be free for a certain amount of time. Like I think the fundamentals were free for a long time, and now
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, when I started out, it was free, and now I think it's a paid thing. So you got to get it while it's hot. If it's available, go for it. And that's another reason I've been going for the IT asset management, is because a lot of that training is available right now.
Well, so for all the newcomers, I believe now that it's in the Tokyo release, they do have a portion that is completely free, and that's to everybody. And that's the Welcome to ServiceNow. And that's kind of what ServiceNow Fundamentals was, at least a portion of it. So now that's completely free. If you want to level up and get your CSA, there's another path that you could take moving forward to go ahead and get that. And I know some of my buddies over there at Pathways Consulting, they're constantly leveling up. I mean, I know Eric Dalmau, he's just got his HR, and I think he's working on his CAT. I think he got both of them already. So I know you guys are constantly leveling up. I'm like, wow, this Pathways is a great company. It's constantly investing in you guys. Efren's got his HR, and it's like everybody who has moved over there, I noticed that they keep on growing, and you as well. And so it's like, it's good to hear that these companies are, they're investing in you even further as you move along, with them. I do have a question from the crowd. Sorry. This is from Angela's son, and just it's kind of like a question that you just tapped on. So this is Angela's son, one of our pre-apprentices. She's asking, with the certifications, do you rely on the official course of study? In other words, we're talking about the ServiceNow website, or are there other resources that you recommend for supplementing when you're studying for these certifications?
Oh yeah, there are resources out there. So first and foremost, my technique is, certainly going through all the course material and I take a lot of notes. I'm a big note taker as I go along. Absolutely. So I'm open about my strategy, and it works every time. Yep. I take a lot of notes in a Google Doc as I'm going through that training, and then I circle back, and our company actually purchases Udemy exams. They're called courses, but they're exams that are developed by folks in the Udemy community that are geared towards certain exams. And so when they're available, our training director purchases those and then makes them available to us. And and so they are, they're available. I don't know how much of that is free for people who aren't connected to a company right now, but they are available for purchase. And then I highly recommend also like Quizlet flashcards. If you've stumbled on Quizlet, that's pretty awesome because that's totally free. You can sign up for an account and just search in the Quizlet database for the particular exam or the certification that you're going for. And then this is why it's so important to like thoroughly go through the course material, because, these are things that are put together by the community. Yep. And they may or may not have like an occasional wrong answer in there. So, sure. You're going to want to, but you can spot those things easily if you've gone through the course material. And the more you learn about ServiceNow, the easier you can spot that stuff. And as I'm going through the Udemy courses, and the same goes for the Udemy courses, but as I'm going through either of those resources, I'm constantly going back to my notes and verifying that, okay, if there's something that sounds a little off, I'll go back and I'll, look for it. And then, okay, yeah, that's actually right. Or no, it's a little off. Let me look into that further.
So for those of you who are joining us, please feel free to post any questions you might have for Laurel as we move forward. I have a question of my own. Actually, I don't even think we mentioned this, but you were actually a teacher at one point. And when you were talking on Friday, I asked you, do you find any parallels between you not only learning a new language, but maybe teaching a new language, and how have those skills kind of transitioned and now as a software developer?
Yeah, I would say, so many transferable skills between learning languages, teaching languages, and being a musician, being a performer in particular. There's like, I could talk about this for days, the similarities there. I think it has a lot to do with perfecting your craft and having a really high attention to like detail and being a very disciplined person. I think in order to learn a new language, in order to learn a new instrument and get good at it, you have to practice a ton, and you have to be comfortable with working, independently and having kind of an analytical mindset. I think the cognitive similarities between musicians and programmers, there's a ton. It's like having this ability to look at the super fine details of things and, having that highly attuned sense of detail, but also being able to step back and look at the bigger picture and see everything, harmonizing, see everything like the bigger picture of an orchestra, all the different parts that make up an orchestra. It's very detailed. Like you get down to the music notes on the page and you've got these tiny little dots, but you read the music and you play the music and it becomes this beautiful, like holistic experience for people. Right. And I think it's similar. You have to have a similar skill set. And when you're coding, is to be able to look at those individual lines of code, but be able to visualize, the bigger picture, the end goal, that you're working toward, or the business process that you're trying to improve, by doing the work that you're doing. So I did have the fortune to, for a certain amount of time, teach English as a second language to people who didn't, obviously they were, coming from different parts of the world. It was an international school. And the English was their second language. And yeah, it was super fun. And I think it was, the similarities there is like breaking things down into manageable chunks for people, helping people break things down into manageable chunks, like helping folks like weed through information and highlight, the important things, like, okay, what can you get from the gist of this conversation, versus like, you don't have to understand every single word when you're studying a new language. In fact, don't try to do that. Don't try to understand every single little piece, because you're going to get stuck in the weeds. But if you can I always thought of myself, like when I was learning a new language, I tried to put myself in the mindset of a baby, of like an infant. Just think about how open their ears are. They're just absorbing like a little sponge all the time, all this information, and it doesn't disturb them, because they don't they're not getting psyched out about it. They don't have anxiety. They don't even know what anxiety is. They're just absorbing all this information, like letting it come over them in waves. And then they're parsing it out. Like their brain is doing all the work. And so I think, we have to, as programmers, especially when you're diving into this, like as a new adventure, the more open-minded you can be and the more you could stop being hard on yourself for not understanding every little thing that you come across. And when you give yourself time to step back and see the bigger picture and understand that like it's going to come in waves, and you're going to understand more and more. Just like learning a language, you understand the basics at first and you get the gists of conversations, you understand the intent, you understand what somebody is maybe trying to communicate, or you get, you start to understand, not by understanding all the words all at once. It's like keywords, so I think a similar mindset is really important when you're going down this path to become a programmer.
So you may or may not know this, but Mike also developed this pre-apprenticeship program, and these are people just knocking on the door, waiting for the next spot to open so they can get into our program. And so we've actually had them go into ServiceNow and check out the Welcome to ServiceNow. And some of them have been there since October, so they actually got to get the actual voucher to take the exam. So some of them may or may not have used that voucher yet, and they're still studying. So a lot of newcomers. I've actually extended also invites to people who are in the ServiceNow Next Gen program. So these are all people who are just budding ServiceNow developers. What kind of advice can you give them for breaking into the ServiceNow space?
Oh, that is awesome. That's really great that you guys are doing that and connecting with like the Next Gen folks. I mean, I would say there is just where there's a will, there's a way. I mean, there's a space for you if you're interested. I think ServiceNow is growing so rapidly and it's evolving so rapidly. There's a plethora of, training available out there where you can just go and be a self-starter, and, you can follow a path and you can start developing, go and, get onto like developer.servicenow.com and get your personal developer instance and get in there and start playing around, and get inspired. There's a lot of videos online, a lot of like, educational material that ServiceNow puts out. They have a whole community, page where you can go and ask questions in the community. And that's where I go to get to like figure out a lot of the solutions for things that I'm working on. I tap into the ServiceNow community. I know there are events going on in terms of, I think in San Diego, I have yet to like check them out, but I'm planning to in the new year. I think that there are even like ServiceNow meetups and things like that, where you can connect with like-minded folks, people who are working on the platform, and get an idea of what it's like to pursue this path, more in depth. But if you've already decided that this path is for you, there is a spot out there, there's so many opportunities. And I think that it's just, getting out there and finding the trainings that are available, and don't let your vouchers expire,
Yep.
And really make use of them, make use of all the community that's out there, Now Learning platform, the personal developer instances. There's like a yearly knowledge event, and some of that content you can access also. Some of that you need to be like with a partner, or there's paid programming, but there's also free programming available where you can check out. ServiceNow always wants to like advertise all the new things that are coming out all the time. So, if you're interested in that, you can certainly get the info that you need. And I think that it's a really uniquely supportive community of folks in ServiceNow.
For sure. Oh yeah.
Right. When you hop on there, there are people out there that are just like giving away the information. It's just they're posting it in the community, and they're posting all these like custom solutions and helping people figure things out. And I think that, there are forums, and you get points for like posting in the community. So you can be like the leader. I know they have like a competition for that, and, people become like MVP in the community and things like that. So that's like another source of inspiration for folks to get involved. And there's also a really interesting, I've come across so many interesting resources, like as I'm diving into this. There's a developer YouTube channel for ServiceNow. And there's like a blog associated with that. And these guys are super funny. There's a guy named Chuck. I think his last name is Tomas.
Oh yeah.
There's
yeah.
like, and then Brad is another guy who's a main developer with ServiceNow. And they put together these really funny and like entertaining and educational YouTube broadcasts. And they'll do like live coding happy hour where you can learn a new part of the platform. You can learn how to build something really cool. You can learn how to use like Flow Designer, and you can, work on some pretty interesting, fun stuff, like get into different parts of the platform that you've never heard about, or they'll take something that's been like a pain point for developers and they'll dive right in. They'll like teach you how to maximize your skill set on it. And so it's pretty cool.
I'm just getting that LinkedIn for Chuck Thomas. You're right. You just reminded me about him. He's good. And we actually have somebody in the house, Callie Alexander. So if you haven't heard of it and you haven't followed her yet, she has this program called 100 Days of Service Now. And I think she's on episode 8. And she actually, I took a peek into one of her live sessions. She actually, walks you through. She'll live code in front of you. So if you have no idea how to use ServiceNow, I would recommend you go check her series out and start on series number 1 or episode number 1 and watch her just kind of walk you through ServiceNow. That's another great resource. And like you mentioned, they have these ServiceNow snugs. They call them snugs, right? Where they have all of these developers, the community of developers and customers come together and talk about, what they'd like to see other features like in the future, right? So there's snugs, and I believe there's actually developer meetups, like you said as well. And I believe every major city should have both a snug and developer meetup groups. And aside from that, they have a ServiceNow for early careers. They have hackathons once a year. So there's a hackathon that you could participate in and, share your results, I think once a year. And I think that's coming up also. So I'll try to find that and drop that in. But yeah, let me get this link for Chuck Thomas because he's another great resource, and I'll try to drop in Callie's as well. Any final words you'd like to share with everybody?
Thank you for the opportunity to get on here and talk to you guys. I appreciate it. And I just want to say a huge thanks to CCC, to Mike Roberts, to Wes, who was on board there, and everybody who I went through the cohort with. It's been a tremendous journey. It's been, I can't even imagine like how different my life would be had I not join CCC. So really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm running with it. So hope you're proud. And it's just great to be connected.
Absolutely. I'm sure they are. I'm going to drop your LinkedIn as well, if that's okay, Laurel, just in case anybody would like to connect with you, maybe ask further questions.
Yeah, for sure.
Another thing, today we just dropped our impact report, our 2022 impact report. So if you'd like to see what we've been doing over these past few years at CCC and kind of see the stats of, where our alumni are going, where are they working, and, what we plan on doing in the future, please check this out and share. I'm going to go ahead and drop that as well. And of course, like Mike said, this might be our last. As a matter of fact, we do have one more guest coming up next Friday. I'm hoping we're going to go forward with that. And that is one of our head engineers. His name is Guillermo Monke. He'll be joining us as well next Friday. So looking forward to seeing you all there. And thank you so much, Laurel, for joining us. And happy holidays to you and yours. Happy holidays to everyone who joined us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Happy holidays and good luck to everybody in the apprenticeship.
All right. Thank you, Laurel. Bye now.
Bye-bye.